Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello, and welcome back to Joe on Joe Extreme. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky. And that laughter you hear, it probably sounds familiar to a lot of you podcast listeners because you know the voice, you know the podcast. It's one of the OG GI Joe podcasts out there. It's Steven Jubber from the GI Joburg podcast. Steve, welcome back to Joe on Joe Extreme.
Extreme indeed, baby. Oh man, this is totally bodacious. We're going in the 90s, man.
Oh my god, totally, dude. It is radical. So extreme.
Joe. The last time we collaborated was Behind the Rock with Cold Slither.
It was, ladies and gentlemen. If you remember Cold Slither Behind the Rock, and you know this is the voice of Zartan, and you were fabulous, and you hooked us up with our Zorana, Claire.
Claire, yeah,
Yes.
very good. Who I happened to be working with at the time. Oh man, Joe, this was exactly a year ago, I think.
It was, yeah. It was a year ago this time. We were putting the finishing touches on Cold Slither.
Dude, well done. I mean, in terms of Cobra Convergence, I think that must have been the coolest project of all. It was so fresh, man. A lot of production went into that. Anyone who's listening to this, make sure you've listened to that. Because it was a fantastic showpiece.
Thank you.
Dude, the voice talents. Like the Dreadnoks, they were so good.
That's why everyone brought their A game. And that was the thing. We sought out authentic people.
And the music just kicked ass.
The music was
Big
amazing.
time.
The music was amazing. We had six, what was it, like 6 continents or 5 continents represented, I'm sorry, 4 continents, I think, and 6 different countries. I think that's what it was. It was 4 continents, 6 different countries.
Cold Slither goes multinational.
Yeah, and
it's a world tour, baby.
It's a world tour, baby. Yeah, well, I mean, really and realistically, 2020 would be the year that Cold Slither would come back with all the plague, and
they might not be able to manage a world tour under these
but they would be trying to launch it. That's the thing, though. They would launch. They would see. Okay, you know what? So we do a little post update to it, and in 2020, Cold Slither got back together for a giant world tour, which was supposed to kick off on April 1st, and everything shut down due to COVID on March 15th.
Of course, our subliminal messages work just as well via Zoom.
Exactly. Yeah, Zoom is some kind of a Cobra, Arbco, Broca, amalgam.
It came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, it's on everyone's lips. It's gotta be some shady dealings going on.
That project was so much fun. I really appreciate you. You've got a role in everything that I do. I got the next one's working on it. To be honest, the COVID slowed it up. We got to be honest, but I'm really hoping to somehow get it finished. My goal to be honest, was to do it more of a my next project, which I'm not saying exactly what it is, but to do it more of like a live radio play. Where I get most of my actors in the room, and we all do it at this. We all do it. With Foley effects and things like that. But obviously that literally is stymied. So I'm going to try to change it up and get it done. Cobra Convergence is moved out. I think it's August this year instead of July.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
but damn, Joe, you're tipping your hand, man. This is some good stuff.
No, I'm not saying what it is.
No one does live radio play anymore. That's incredible.
I know.
Incredible.
I'm a fan. It's a lost art. It's a lost art, man. So, Steve, you're amazing. Your work with the guys at GI Joburg, Paul Loebscher, our buddy Cujo.
Yeah, man.
And now you're working with Troy Smith, who's a personal friend. He's amazing. And you guys
we have him to thank for me coming back on this show, because he kind of planted the seed. He had just done the recording with you, and he was like, Steve, why don't you get back on Joe on Joe? I was like, okay, would that be greedy of me to have another go? And so that's why I hit you up, man. That and the fact that I could not find Extreme anywhere for love or money. So getting a free access pass from you sounded like a dream come true.
Totally.
All I got to do is talk for an hour. Easily done.
Talk to me for an hour. Oh, well, hold on. That might not be worth
That's
it.
a great trade-off.
Yeah. Yeah. And listeners, if you don't exactly understand what Steve's saying, we've got about 13 episodes left. So this is the last episode. Today we're watching Rebellion, which is the 13th episode of the first season. Season 2 has another 13 episodes. So we are literally halfway through GI Joe Extreme. And what I'm bribing you guys with is, because most of you don't have these episodes or have never even seen them really, I've got them all on a Google Drive. So my guests get full access to that sweet, sweet GI Joe Extreme content. So if you want to be a guest on the show, shoot me an email to joeonjoepod@gmail.com, or hit me up, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram @joeonjoepod. Just let me know you want to be a guest on the show. We will make it happen. Steve.
I must say, Joe,
Yeah.
what is most impressive is the very authentic like VHS filter that you did in post. I mean, it
Yeah.
looks like literally it was pulled off TV back in 1995.
As if
How did you do it, Joe?
Well, you know what? That's the thing. And not only am I a master of recreating old Behind the Music episodes, but I can also recreate old recordings from Appleton, Wisconsin, which is where most of these GI Joe Extremes came from.
Buddy, very authentic,
Thank
I
you,
must say.
thank you. I tried.
Scratchy edges at the top
Oh,
of the frame.
all of it.
Letterboxed.
All
It's
of
great.
it. All of it. Sometimes I cut commercials out. Sometimes I leave them in. Sometimes I have the intros. Sometimes I don't. It's a crapshoot. I can honest. I would love for Hasbro to re-release these, clean them up, and put out a proper box set or stream or however they can do it. I would love to see these cleaned up, because I don't think they're all that bad.
Absolutely. They've got such a distinctive look. I mean, I know you guys have talked about on the show the heavy inking. But it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It probably covers up a great many sins
Right.
in
right.
the animation.
That's exactly
But
right.
at the same time, such a striking look. And
Yeah.
it would be nice to see them like cleaned up,
And they
high
look
def,
so
good
much
quality.
like the action figures.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I don't now. Do you? So you guys at GI Joburg, let's talk GI Joburg. First of all, it's an amazing podcast. You guys put out probably like an episode every 2 weeks or so. It's not
Yeah, we've gone
weekly, right?
fortnightly to just keep
Yeah.
it. Yeah, exactly. I am currently hosting another podcast called Talking Joe.
Oh,
We're getting very in deep with the continuation of the Larry Harmer run.
Yeah.
We're into the IDW stuff. Yeah, in 2 weeks we'll hit issue 200.
I don't think I
So
realized.
that's-
I don't think I realized you were a co-host in that. That's great.
Well, it's gone through a number of co-hosts.
Oh, so you're-
started out with Chief and Ben, then it was Chief and Chris, now it's Chief and Steve.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah, Chief's philosophy is break and replace.
Yeah. Well, hey, just like an
Just
O-ring.
burns
Just-
through co-host.
yeah, just like an O-ring.
Yeah, man.
How long have you been doing that?
Gosh, I think we're coming up on my 20th outing with them.
Oh, great.
It'll all kind of coincide. The 80th episode of Talking Joe will be the 200th episode issue of the comic book, and I think will be my 20th appearance on it. But what aren't the kind of break and replace kind of toys are these extreme guys.
Yeah.
They look very durable. Of course, I
Very
have
durable.
no first-hand experience with them because we never got them in South Africa.
Yeah, that's how
The most we got were like images from Toy Fair magazine. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
man, we kind of salivated over them because it was like, oh, new GI Joe product, awesome. I hope we can see them. But then we realized exactly how unarticulated they were.
Right. They're
Because
very
of course
posed.
these were Kenner action figures. And by this stage, I think Hasbro had bought Kenner,
They
which
did.
is why Kenner was able to do GI Joe toys. But like, it very much fit the mold of like what Kenner had been doing up to that point with the Batman animated series figures.
Yes. Very
So,
much
like,
like those
5 points of
Legends of
artillery.
the Dark Knight figures and Extreme
Yes,
Extreme
absolutely.
Justice. And eventually this same vibe rolled into the Star Wars figures of these like
Yeah,
overly
super buff.
Yeah, overly muscled, not really realistic looking angry people.
It's a pity because like you look at the animation and you think, okay, it's very 90s, it's very like J. Scott Campbell, but there's some merits to these designs.
There
You
are
know, it's
yeah.
GI Joe does the X-Force.
Yes,
Everyone's got
it-
massive shoulder pads,
It
big,
is.
inexplicably sci-fi weapons.
If this were
But it's
happening
definitely got its appeal.
Yeah, if this were happening concurrent with Real American Hero, what this team would have been is all right, guys, we need to put together a black ops team that can have complete deniability. And to do so, you're gonna have to wear slightly different uniforms. But Scarlet, you're going in, and we're gonna change your name to Mayday. You know, Snake Eyes,
Nice.
you're gonna be Black Dragon. You know, Heavy Duty, you're gonna be Freight. You know what I mean? And this is also that if you get caught, no one, you know, no one will connect you to the GI Joe team, like that kind of thing.
Right
And you're
on.
gonna be called GI Joe Extreme. You know, how can
Okay,
no one
so
how can no one
riffing
connect
on,
how
like,
can no one connect
Slaughter's Renegades.
yeah, how can no one connect
Kind
us
of.
to the GI Joe team if you then call us GI Joe Extreme? Don't ask questions, soldier.
I think I might have a problem with you recasting like Snake Eyes as Black Dragon.
He's supposed.
What?
I mean, the personalities are wildly different, but isn't it
Totally.
Snake Eyes?
Well, I'm trying to justify it in my head, like if Snake Eyes hadn't been burned and he'd suddenly been transplanted into the body of like a teenager. Because I mean,
think of
Black
the
Dragon has got such a youthfulness about
He
him.
does. Think of this. If Snake Eyes' family had never been killed by Cobra Commander's brother, he would have come home.
Yes.
And if American citizens weren't so crappy about Vietnam soldiers coming home, he would have come home to a hero's welcome. His family would have been alive, and he would have been like, you know what, I'm gonna be happy-go-lucky and plucky for the rest of my day.
Or maybe, hey, check this out. Like, you know, I mean, that's a great explanation, but it just occurred to me, like, to explain away the punk kid characterization that they've given him. Maybe this is Snake Eyes before he went away to war. Like, this is a much lighter, because it said in his, I think in his original file card, you know, subject served in Southeast Asia, but he had martial arts training and some sort of background in martial arts before that.
Interesting.
Maybe I'm misreading it. I know that he went off to the Arashikage dojo afterwards, but like there always seemed like there was some kind of experience that happened in Snake Eyes' formative years that set him on this path long before he went to Nam.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're maybe overthinking this.
No.
Something else that bugs
You
me
know
about
what we
Black
need?
Dragon.
You know what we need?
Yeah, man.
We need a miniseries like the Punisher Born miniseries. You know, Ennis told I don't know if you read that, but he basically
I have not.
Yeah, it's basically the origin of the Punisher, but it's a decade or years before the Punisher's family got killed in Central Park. It takes place entirely in Vietnam, and it shows you the kind of man Frank Castle was, and then the things that happened that really made him into the Punisher. That his wife and kids getting shot was just the straw that broke the camel's back. So it's called Punisher Born, but even though the Punisher's not actually in it. So we need something like that with like
Smart.
Snake Eyes Born, you know, like what led up to the moments before we got to issue 26, you know, what made him such a battle-hardened dude.
Oh, cool, man. No, I like that. In fact, one of my favorite scenes in there was a Punisher Civil War trade, and I remember reading like there was a sequence where it details the first time he meets Captain America.
Oh yeah,
it's when he was like he was in sort of Marine boot camp, and Cap had come to, I don't know, just talk to the troops about like the harshness and the realities of the war that they're about to be sent off to. You know, the soldier from a bygone era, now superhero, talking to the regular grunts. And I think he singled Frank out and he was like, okay, soldier, wind up and hit me, you know, try and hit me. And he just wouldn't do it. And like Captain America administers a brutal beatdown on Frank and he just does not budge. He's like, no, sir, you're a hero. I'm not going to hit you. Yeah, man. All this kind of prehistory. So fascinating.
And you're absolutely. And then during the Civil War, they really played up with that. Yeah, I remember. I think it was in the sewer. It was in the sewers. They were on the opposite sides, and as soon as Frank saw him, he was like, "Nope."
Yeah, man. I want to be on your team. Well, yeah. Better get used to non-lethal means then, Punisher.
Yeah. So, Steve, you're calling from Queensland, Australia.
Yep, sunny North Queensland in Australia. What an interesting turn of events. You see, my wife lives here, and I had been the traveling performing artist for a number of years now. In fact, that's how we met. So more and more my base was becoming Australia.
Was she a groupie at one of your shows? Was she like, who's him and how do I get in him?
Well, yeah. Though I would say she was probably spoiled for choice. Are you familiar with the Broadway musical Jersey Boys?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a 95% male cast.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing that at the time, and needless to say, she was spoiled for choice, but she settled on my boring ass.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I know. Wonderful.
And you were telling me she's a doctor.
Yeah, correct. And of course, my industry, my career has been completely torpedoed by COVID. So I've been sitting on my ass for 3 months, just letting Dr. Kim take care of me.
Well, God bless her for being on the front line.
I know, right? I know,
Is
but
she-
the itch is strong. I got to get back out there, Joe. And
I know. Well,
fortunately,
I gotta finish scripts. I gotta get you some scripts. That's I think what you're saying. We gotta do an all Zartan special.
Gladly, man. I've got all the time in the world. Of course, now I'm finally on a visa for the first time in the last 3 months. I finally received a visa from the Australian government that allows me to work. But of course, no one's hiring.
No hiring, yeah.
And I live in a small town, and it's like, everyone's had to let go of their temporary staff in any capacity. So
Right.
for the first time in my life, I'm on the job market. It's a strange and disconcerting experience.
Well, listeners, if you need, I'll tell you right now, honestly, listeners, you guys we got a lot of people that run a lot of small businesses out there. And we're doing a lot of things online, and a lot of people are doing advertising online. And what you do is you need a wonderful voice actor. So I'm not even fooling here. Hit up Steve Jubber. Hear that voice? This guy, no, I'm serious, Steve. Theater trained,
Thanks,
a
Kyle.
classically trained actor. He will do your VO reads, and he'll take care of you. So if you really want that, hit him up. If you want
Thanks, Joe.
if you want a baritone Polish guy, hit me up. But hit Steve up first.
Joe, you are the voice of GI Joe, man. You've got such a great bass. It's beautiful. I can listen to your podcast for hours.
Oh well,
Just gotta cut out the weirdo guest like me and just
You're
get
too
pure
flattering.
Joe,
Too
pure
flattering.
Joe on Joe.
Pure Joe on Joe
Well-
on Jubber. Well, before we get into the show, have you been following the releases of the new toys and all that?
I have yet to actually get my hands on any of the 6-inch Joes, and as of yesterday, which was Fan Friday, sorry, it is still Friday in your time zone.
Yep.
There have been some new reveals. Have you taken a look at those?
I did, and I pulled the trigger on them this morning. So I ordered me.
No, Joe.
I did.
Which ones?
I ordered me a Gung Ho. I ordered both Cobra Commanders. I ordered the Profit Domination Destro, the Pimp Daddy Destro that they are calling. You saw that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Find a very PC way
Oh,
of
it's
saying PDD.
Fabulous. I ordered him, and I ordered a Red Ninja, but the Hasbro site was already sold out of Red Ninjas by the time I logged on. So I had to get him through Amazon. Which I'll say it again, I don't advise people ordering these figures through Amazon because they ship them in loose bubble mailers. I went through three roadblocks before I finally got one the box was not crushed by the time it got to me.
Are you keen on keeping the boxes?
I am, just because it's easier for me to store them that way. Like
Gotcha.
it'll
Yeah,
stay in nicer shape because I'm in where I'm at. I don't have a ton of like display case. You know what I mean? So it's
None of
more,
us do, buddy.
Yeah, no, I know. So it's more of like I'll get the boxes, I'll enjoy them, put them away, or put them on a shelf. Plus, honestly, these boxes are gorgeous. They're absolutely stunning.
yeah.
I'm looking at Scarlet right now. It's beautiful Phil Noto art. I'm not sure who did the Roadblock and who did the Duke, but they got different artists for each of the boxes, and they're absolutely stunning.
No love for the 90s Storm Shadow riff.
Oh,
you don't dig that guy?
You know what? I ordered him, but I got to be honest,
Oh,
not a fan.
Okay.
I don't think it looks that great. There's too much black on the costume. One of the
but it symbolizes his ambiguity.
Yeah, like am I
his
good?
conflict.
Am I evil? Yeah, no, I don't know.
Mm.
No, I like my Storm Shadow in all white because then you get that great contrast of the bad guy in the white and then the good guy in the black. I love that dichotomy.
Can't argue with that, Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of the figure. I did order it though, and it looks great from like a sculpt perspective. So it's not a complaint on the, I guess on the technical wizardry of making it, but it didn't pop. But I tell you what, I did love. Gung Ho looks awesome, and I guess his
Are
hat,
you in
I
the
guess his
camp
hat
of
comes
guys
off.
that want? Yes.
Yes!
Wow. We've waited like 40 years for that. Incredible.
Oh, I love that Gung Ho. I love it. Absolutely love it. We were talking. I was talking in a separate chat with friends of the show, Paul Galliano and Jeremiah Stafford. They've both been guests, and Jeremiah's, he's a massive action figure collector, like big time, and he surmised actually that he thinks a more traditional looking Snake Eyes might come with the movie wave, so they might be holding that back. Like in the movie, he might look more traditional in his all white gi. Because we're also, we're going to get a movie version of Snake Eyes too, so that might be why they decided to jump out on the 6-inch line with the V2 Storm Shadow. And I don't mind the V2 Storm Shadow look. I don't know. It didn't pop for me on this. But gung ho, woo!
Are you of the school of thought that like you got to trade out his weapons for like more believable armaments, or do you like the sci-fi looking stuff?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind the sci-fi stuff. The only one that really looks weird, I think, is Roadblock, because that doesn't look anything like a gun.
Do you arm him up with a the Marduce, and then have him look at odds with the rest of the team who have like, of course, essentially blasters?
Yeah, I get it. No, I mean it makes sense, but Roadblock he's always got to have that Marduce.
Right. But then, would it not look at odds? Because a lot of collectors have taken it upon themselves to use third-party manufacturers to arm their figures.
Nah, I don't go that deep.
If you do one, you got to do them all, surely.
True. Yeah, no, I don't go that deep. I'm a traditionalist. I'll play with what they gave me. Like, and this goes back to when I was a kid. Duke's helmet always had to stay with Duke. That he had that lighter green from my Duke came with, and so he always had to have that helmet. If someone else was wearing that helmet, we had a problem. His backpack was always his backpack. Like their guns were their guns. Like it was if Snake Eyes had to pick up like an AK-47 or something, there had to be a story reason for it.
Sure. Yeah.
Otherwise, it was
Joe,
Uzi.
That's interesting.
Otherwise, it was Uzis all day.
I haven't thought about this for the longest time, but yeah, I think I went through a phase where there was that kind of purity, like a character's equipment was their equipment, you never strayed. But then you went to the age of like all the toys just being in one big box, and you just go scratching for whatever weapon appealed to outfit your figure. So you skipped that phase completely.
Oh yeah, no, I never went through that phase. Whenever they got put away, they got put away with their weapons. And then when I eventually put them away for long-term storage, I might have outfitted all of them and then put them all in the, like in the APC and then in the in the various storage spots. Like I think, and which certainly resulted in some damage to a few of them over the years. No, I was really keen. I was really keen on keeping them with it. And I remember when one of the real joys I had when I was early 30s, and I brought the box from my parents' house to my home in Chicago, and I brought this massive
I just got
box.
goose flesh.
Dude,
oh my god.
I sat in front of the TV watching old GI Joe cartoons on my GI Joe DVD set, and I used yojo.com to match every gun to every person who needed it. Like I matched everything, and it was such a fulfilling experience.
Did you have some O-rings of the correct gauge set aside?
Well,
they would have come in handy.
You know what? Yes, but I don't know if they were. I still don't think I got my O-rings right, but I did do O-ring replacement. Yeah.
Good man. What a great experience! And of course, you had the tunes to accompany you.
Of course.
Nice one, Joe.
Of course. I mean, you got to set the tone. But what I didn't have at the time,
some candles,
play some music.
right?
Yeah. Put on
Me and my Joes.
Yeah. Put on some Boys to Men, and oh wait, maybe that was just me. But what I didn't have at the time though, Steve, was GI Joe Extreme. But we have that now. Now we have it, and now you and I are going to watch the second part of the first season finale called Rebellion. Are you ready for this?
Oh. The odds are 1,000,000 to 1.
They're 1,000,000 to 1, and that's the way we like it. So listeners, to catch you up, in case you didn't catch last episode, which hey, I urge you go back in the podcast feed and listen to the Coup of the Claw. It's very similar to the Synthoid conspiracy from back in the Sunbow days. Basically, Iron Claw in the form of Count Von Rainey was addressing Congress, which in this future is like Congress/UN, like there were world leaders there as well. And they basically took over the United States government. They took over the White House. They claimed control of the military, and the U.S. military was fighting against GI Joe, and they sunk GI Joe Island, destroyed it.
Man.
Absolutely destroyed it, which is a big plot point early on in this episode. So the GI Joe
Sunken island?
sunken.
How could that happen, Joe?
And not only an island, a movable island. I feel like at one point someone should have been like, "Listen, those guys have an island that moves. Maybe we don't sink it." Because an island that moves is pretty cool. Maybe we try to capture it. But it sunk. So the Joes are, they're out of pocket, so to speak. So they're fugitives and they're on the run. And that's as exciting as it gets for me in the world of G.I. Joe. I'm excited for this.
Totally, buddy.
Steve, are you ready?
I'm ready, man.
All right, man.
Just like got some of Count von Rainey's juice from his own
from his
personal
orange
orchard.
juice.
Dude,
It's so great.
the orange juice that turns you into a zombie.
It's so
Oh,
great,
my
so
goodness.
great. All right, listeners, we'll get your files ready. And Steve Jubber, remember, guys, go check out GI Joburg. They do great work. You're gonna love it. You're gonna fall in love with these guys. So get those videos ready. Get your fingers ready to click on it, because I know you're not watching it on a DVD. And here we go.
Nice return to the live action elements.
Love the live
Ooh.
action. And it bums me out that on these bootleg things, we didn't have a live action on. Was it the previous one? One of the previous ones didn't have it.
Yeah,
So the fact that we
previous
have one
didn't
here,
have it.
it tells me that they must have done live actions for all of these. So I think out of the 13, we've maybe gotten like 10 live actions. I feel like we missed like 3 of them.
So it's totally a sign of the times. I mean, I think Mighty Morphin Power Rangers did it, obviously, full-length live episodes. And then there was the Action Man cartoon. And this is just like Sunbow keeping up with the
Oh,
Joneses.
look at that dude's
man, check this
transformation. That transformation is
So-
great. So the live action it's Iron Claw, and he gives this serum, which I think it's like a mind
In the
control.
juice.
Yeah, the juice, just from a special orange orchard. He gives it to one of his soldiers, and the guy mutates into like this Nosferatu looking vampire monster, and that CGI transformation was really, really good.
It was that morphing process that they use at the end of Michael Jackson's Black or White.
Right, that is what it
Which-
was.
Which was it was flawless. They got that absolutely perfect in the 90s.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
did.
man. And it looked so good. Damn. Really, really good.
So, but what's funny though, do they do that in this episode? Did I blank on that?
No, that
I don't
was
think that's
that was kind of
actually-
explaining the process in the previous episode. So they administer the juice.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's a little bit of like
but the juice,
justification off the
but
fact.
the orange juice, that was more, wasn't it more? Well, either way, we start with there's such intricate plot lines in G.I. Joe Extreme. Rebellion, written by Mark Edens, and we started a baseball game. So it's like America doesn't know that it's been taken over yet. And here comes Iron Claw, and he comes on the big screen at this baseball game. It's very exciting. I love that their choice to do this, because it's just
at a major sporting event. Yeah,
Yeah,
Chris Nolan, he totally ripped them off in Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, oh my God, totally. It's totally Christopher Nolan did. So because you see he's in Washington, obviously, and they showed a clip from San Francisco, and now here's a clip of New York. There's the World Trade Center.
Towers, man.
Oh, and there's giant explosions. And then wherever the baseball game was. So it's a really quick way to say, oh no, this is all over the United States. Like, this is happening. And
Clancy and the president
Clancy
tied up in the Oval
president.
Office.
Now, I'm very excited to announce that the other day I did dig out my G.I. Joe Extreme comic books for the first time in probably 20 years.
I haven't read them. Are they written by Frank Miller?
No, the cover is Frank Miller.
Oh, the
though.
cover.
No, but they
Gotcha.
are written by Mike Barr, who's a very, very talented comic book writer from back in the day. I don't know what he's been writing lately, but he's a very talented writer. So I'm one issue in to brush up to do some episodes of Joe and Joe Illustrated for him. And so I gotta be asked, so far so good. Once again, a good comic.
Great.
And
Good. That bodes well. I've never read it.
And it gives more flavor to this stuff. Like they introduced a so far, I don't want to get too deep into that, but there's someone higher up than Ironclaw. There's a lady who's like his master that they introduce in the comic book.
Oh,
yeah.
So she's actually calling the shots.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, it's a whole thing. So listeners, it's coming soon. And it's very exciting. So here we have the U.S. soldiers. They're saluting the sunken GI Joe Island because they just
That's totally how
destroyed it.
islands work.
Yeah, that is totally. Well,
You can
listen,
sink them.
Yeah, you sink them. They can't move. And the Joes are still at Arlington, where they kind of regrouped at the end of the last episode. So they have to free the president so that he can give an order to attack SKAR. President,
Do you have any personal favorites amongst the Joe team? Like strongest designs or best characterizations?
Characterizations. I think I kind of like Freight a lot because he's so simple. It's just so like, let's do it. And like that football episode was fun. And then design wise,
Got you stumped, man. Okay.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know. What about you? Do you have any?
All right. Well,
any faves?
One of the episodes that I had on VHS as a child featured ballistic quite heavily.
Yeah.
This is sort of an infiltration mission into Count Von Rainey's court.
Yes.
With ballistic and Lieutenant Stone.
It's like a James Bond episode.
And it totally has a focus on him, and I just loved his vocal delivery, man. It was so, he is your typical like cool guy.
Yeah.
He's the Han Solo type, with the swagger and like the expert marksmanship. His like Hawkeye ability to never miss.
Oh, for sure.
So that's probably put him in very high esteem. The action figures sucked, but it would be lovely if they did a modern.
I gotta be honest.
Modern interpretation.
That's the thing. So I just called up the action figure page, and to excuse my lack of answer for you, they all kind of look the same.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they all got pouches and shoulder pads. They're just different color pouches and different color shoulder pads. They really do.
But they've all got unique action figures, Joe.
Sure.
I mean, action features.
Yeah,
action features.
I guess they do, but they really, really do look quite similar. So you take that out, and I still love Freight just because he's a behemoth, and I like his bandana. I like Sergeant Steel, or Sergeant Savage. Sorry, I like Sergeant Savage a lot because he's kind of old school.
Not Captain America.
No. We never heard of Captain America.
Like all these characters have got like some kind of analog in pop culture.
Yeah,
like exactly. Count Von Rainey is totally Victor Von Doom.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say. I love his outfit. I love his. He's great. I think he's awesome. You
know that the Collectors Club did a modern version.
Yeah, and he looked great.
And yeah, man, I've never had this figure to hand, but everyone who I've spoken to who has speaks very highly of it. It was the sleeper hit of that wave.
Yeah, it looks really, really good. Oh, so here's all these. These are the orange juice drinkers. They all got turned into monsters.
They look quite horrifying, but I'm trying to figure out why the heck. I mean, why did they administer this orange juice and then take them hostage anyway? Surely just taking them hostage is threat enough.
True, but I guess maybe the orange juice maybe is a threat to not do it to more people. Like, this is what we can do. We could get you we can get you through vitamin C or something.
These guys definitely need their vitamin C.
Yeah, I mean they look horrific. Let's be clear.
And what do you think of flamethrowers mounted on forearms, like we see with Inferno over here?
I think it's a bad idea.
Probably, especially if you have your hands.
Yeah, we're going to commercial.
Jutting out beyond the.
We'll be right
muzzle.
back, listeners. I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts, and you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie? It's about not two movies. It's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. You know, it's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out one episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show. And we're going back in. Your hand over the flamethrower muzzle, terrible idea. However, if he had enough, Kevlar or something over the knuckles, maybe he'd be all right. I mean, Destro
gonna be hot either way.
I mean, Destro had wrist rockets on. You know, you're telling me he never accidentally shot his own hand?
Touche. You know, as it came out of my mouth, I was like, "Yep, Joe's got me there."
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that, like Iron Man and his repulsors that are in his hand or something. You know, like there's always that. Oh man, you're gonna accidentally be like scratching your balls and shoot your groin off or something. You know what I mean? There's always that danger.
So, the Rogues Gallery all seem like they have supervillain origins behind them.
Yes, they totally do.
It's fascinating to me. Like we get a little bit of insight into Inferno in previous episodes.
Yes,
like he was a poor kid who just didn't have all the toys that the rich kids had. So that speaks to his psychology.
And that's something that this show does that Real American Hero didn't do. You know, like we never had a deep, insightful Major Blood episode. You know, the closest we got was like the Destro one where they get into his lineage. Is he related to Lady J? You know what I mean? Like that.
Totally.
That's probably the closest we get. But we never got the origin of Cobra Commander. Really, you know, we never got the origin of Baroness. And so far,
what, Mutant Snake Man, not good enough for you?
Yeah. I mean, well, you're right. Like, yeah, that is the one time they really did it, and they did it in the movie.
And people hated it.
Yeah,
oh man,
half the episodes on this whole first season have dealt with someone's origin, whether it was, Freight's origin or Wreckage or
Rampage.
Yeah. Like it really dealt with their origins, and that's pretty cool.
Agreed. Yeah. Of course, it's also like the show just writes itself. It's like, we've got about 13 characters to introduce. They're 13 episodes. Bam.
Yeah.
Character spotlight every time.
Yep. This episode actually does a great job of highlighting like the whole team and all the bad guys. So we have Inferno going up against Torpedo. He's waterlogged. Or Harpoon. Yeah, Torpedo. Yeah, Harpoon.
But I mean, all is forgiven. It's totally
it's gonna. Well, it's funny. They in that comic book, that first issue of this, they did introduce a new character, and they called him Short Fuse. But apparently he's not. But he's not our Short Fuse.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I don't know what the thinking was behind that. Like,
look, it's remarkable to me that there were still viable code names that hadn't been used by previous GI Joe members.
Listen.
Okay, Metalhead being the obvious
repeat
example of that exception.
To this day, whenever we do our show, and you, of course, legendarily known around these parts as Action Feature, when we do...
Try to forget about that.
Yeah, no. I love it. I'm always happily surprised at how well the code names that we come up with on the show would fit into the GI Joe line. You know what I mean? Like they really feel organic. They feel like a G.I. Joe name. And so I think there's just limitless names that fit. For whatever reason, the style of naming that Hama came up with just absolutely fits. Oh, so this is great. This is great. Oh, that was so awesome. So whoever made that's Wreckage, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that Rampage? That's right.
Wreckage.
Yeah. Whoever made... Yeah, and I get...
Splitting hairs.
I know, it's so hard. Yeah, Wreckage finally he's told that whoever made him wasn't the government. So he's always they've hit this point in multiple episodes that the reason he's a quote unquote bad guy is because he doesn't trust the United States government. So I really, really hope that on season 2 he turns and fights alongside the Joes. How great would that be?
Yeah, man. It's fascinating that this show has got less of a reset than previous animations. There are
completely.
events there is continuity between episodes. There's
Yeah.
an arc.
Yes, completely. I'm fascinated to see where they go next week with season, because this season,
something that I thought was resolved perhaps too quickly was Quick Strike being an ill-trusted member of the Joe team.
right?
It was almost dealt with the very next episode.
Yeah, I would have liked his episode where I would have liked him to be more distrusted a little bit. That would have been very cool. Yep.
Because it's like he had this interesting characterization. Now it's been diffused. Now he's just one of the guys.
Good point.
Pity.
Yeah, good point. However, having said that, that episode is pretty great.
Yeah.
And
big time.
I wonder. Well, I mean, because there is continuity, it probably was in right order. But I wonder, if maybe they meant to play that out, and maybe that episode got pushed up in the order or something. But there's kind of broad continuity here. Like there's growth. This show's written really well. It is what it is. They were trying to capture a different market.
And because they had this kind of overarching continuity, obviously all the writers had some idea of what plot elements they needed to push episode to episode. It wasn't like villain of the week, or MacGuffin of the week.
Right. There
is definitely merit to this show. I hope more people get to see that.
Yeah. So Ironclaw just escaped with we're going to commercial, but with Clancy.
We'll be rocking right back.
Today's Filecard features on the lone female of the group, Mayday. She's the aggressive and determined, skilled fighter and pilot and driver, and I don't know much else about her. She never had the figure produced. So far on the show, we haven't really gotten an origin for Mayday. She's redhead, wears green and orange, so she's very, very similar in looks to Scarlet. Does not behave like Scarlet at all. She's very impetuous and hot-headed. I don't know if they ever gave her a real name. I don't know anything about her. I don't know where she's from. If we learn it later in the show, awesome. As of now, don't know anything about her, except she's feisty. Based on the fact that she looks like Scarlet, doesn't act like Scarlet. It's kind of like she looks like Scarlet and kind of acts like Lady J, like a younger Lady J, like what Lady J would have been in her early 20s. So based on that, I like her. But I can't really give you guys much more on her because I don't know that there's anything much more to know. So Mayday, whoever you are, we salute you.
Okay, buds, we're back. Let's rock and roll.
See, I kind of like Metal.
Yeah,
it's like
he's
Bill
like
and Ted.
rock
It's like
and
a
roll,
Bill and
but
Ted.
like
Yeah, it's like if Bill and Ted were a G.I. Joe guy.
Oh yeah, much better.
It's pretty great.
Wayne's World.
Yeah. So the Joes rescue the president. So now the president can give the proper command to, for the military to fight SKAR. And we're going
to invade a European nation.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so this is like the Third World War, man.
Yeah. So they kidnap
Boots on the
Tom
ground.
Clancy here. And now it becomes a rescue mission for Clancy. And it's cool because the first episode was really broad stroked, very global, very very MacGuffin heavy. Not MacGuffin per se, but very plot heavy of they're taking over.
Set up.
Now, and now this one does that great job of getting narrower and narrower and more personal with the action. So the Joes wrapped up the big global invasion plot, and now it becomes a rescue mission for their friend Clancy. I like that.
Action time.
Oh man, yeah.
I celebrated so much over that helicopter design as a child. It pains me that it never saw release, at least not in the United States. Eventually, it got released in India. Did you know that?
Oh, it did? Really?
Yeah, the Battle Hawk.
That's really cool.
But I mean, it is designed for 5-inch figures and wide figures at that. So I can't imagine the cockpit looking too appropriate for 3 3/4-inch Joe.
Right.
But it was released in their 3 3/4-inch line, and packaged with a mystery action figure. That's so cool.
Oh, really?
Fun School India would just like chuck a random
Oh,
figure in the box.
It's so funny. We need to get. Well, I don't do a ton of toy stuff because I'm not by any stretch of the imagination an expert on the toy stuff. But the Fun School stuff that always fascinated me because I don't remember them ever doing GI Joe, but I've seen it so much that they got the license and just reprinted everything, like all the figures. Like
Yeah, well, they're affiliates of Hasbro, or I don't know. They've got all the molds and the tooling. So because it was an unproduced toy, the tooling was perfect. It was unblemished. It was ready to go. So they produced this Battlehawk, I think, in 2000, as late as that.
Wow! But in general, when Fun School was putting out GI Joes, were they releasing them around the world, or were those released in America?
They were released domestically in India, and I think if you had a really savvy toy shop that had some kind of import section, we got a handful of Fun School figures on card.
Okay.
I think they made their way to the States eventually, but as I say, not through major chains. I don't think you would have found them at Toys R Us.
I don't remember, just as a consumer, ever seeing Fun School related GI Joe. And then once we got in, once I started doing this pod and reigniting my passion for Joes, I really quickly saw that like Fun School did this stuff, but I've never really dug into the whys and the hows of it.
Joe, Lieutenant Stone has got this 4-barreled weapon. Which he seems to be cradling.
He's just like a lover, Steve.
Did he yank it off a vehicle or something? Like, it doesn't look like it's meant to be handheld.
I don't even know where I don't even know where the trigger is. He's just holding it and it's shooting. I don't know what it is. But he found Clancy's glasses, so that tells him Clancy's in that room. He deduced that they were behind like a secret panel in the wall, which of course they are. So he's making his way down into the underground bunker where SKAR and all the army is waiting to unleash on the world.
An important plot point that Lieutenant Stone actually steps on the glasses, destroys them, but puts the crumpled glasses into his shirt pocket.
Yes. Stone looks
Interesting
really good. Stone looks really good.
Khalistan, they don't know that they're, that SKAR is being kind of headquartered beneath the surface. Like even Von Rainey's personal guards,
right?
Like when those Skyrenes come out of the ground, they're like, "What the heck is this?"
Well, I'll tell you, in the comic, and we touched on this in an earlier episode. I forget which of our guests. I forget who it was that was telling me about this. But yeah, in the comic, Von Rainey is not Ironclaw, and Ironclaw assumes in that first issue he takes over his identity. So Von Rainey was a legitimate dude, and quite frankly, in the first issue of the comic, a bit of a creeper, bit of a Me Too creeper. Yeah, I know.
So the comic book immediately gives away that Ironclaw is a master of disguise.
Yes.
Whereas the cartoon kind of makes it look like it's Ironclaw is an alter ego of Von Rainey.
Yes, yeah. But in the comics,
interesting bit of misdirection.
They establish that Ironclaw is his own dude, but he shows up and takes over the identity of Count Von Rainey. So now we're in one of those patented music video scenes, and it's a really cool fight between Stone and Claw, and it's a pretty good fight. I figured someone was gonna fall on that big spiked shield. Ironclaw takes in the face.
Damn, that's some foreshadowing.
It's a good fight,
but it doesn't come to pass. He's great, and also give the voice cast
and he throws him
a minute of downtime.
He throws him into basically lava, right? That was like lava, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So he throws him into like this red hot lava plume. So, according to Stone, as far as he could tell, Ironclaw's dead. But now, here comes Clancy. And Quickstrike has Ironclaw's broken face mask. So they assume he's dead, but Clancy's standing there. And Steve, what do you see about Clancy?
I wear my sunglasses indoors.
Right?
Big time.
Clancy has his sunglasses on. Even though we saw Stone pick up Clancy's broken glasses earlier. So that should be a tip, kids.
Did you catch that, kids?
Did you catch that?
I wonder if children watching this at the time were that critical of the details. Was this enough shadowing?
Well, I mean, this by the way, the end of this is amazing. Well, they just give it away right
Yeah.
there, which I
They
was
give
kind
it
of like, I was
away,
like,
but, like-
oh, why did you give it away? So
Yeah,
we're
trust the audience,
listeners,
man.
yeah. What they do is Clancy's like, oh, it could be anyone, and then they had smoke go over his face, and then it revealed, and it was supposed to be just to the audience that it was Ironclaw. He's now assumed the role of Clancy, which is fantastic, and I hope that they keep that up for all of next season, or at least a good chunk of next season, because I love that setup. And now we're into a PSA, and the kids are lighting themselves on fire. And it's your guy, it's your guy
Isn't
Ballistic.
this the best one?
It's
The best one.
your-
I mean, strange man like wrestling a
Yeah.
child to the ground.
yeah. Look,
Children setting each other on fire.
Don't burn
it's all
yourself.
kinds of wrong.
Don't burn yourself. I've been stalking you in the woods for all this time. I can't kidnap.
Yeah.
I can't kidnap you and torture you to a slow death if you burn yourself alive first. So don't do it before I can get to you, kids.
Oh, jeez.
Amazing.
PSAs. What a time.
Amazing.
I kind of almost wish they had done them live action style. Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh, how! I gotta be honest. That might be even creepier though. If you think about it, like just a real live grown ass dude appearing out of nowhere, being like, "Don't drown, kid. Hey, hey, you! Stay away from that power line."
Well, it would definitely be perhaps even more funny after the fact to watch these PSAs
Now,
with like real actors. Come here, Timmy. Sit down on my knee.
I was just So of course there's the classic, the GI Joe PSAs that legendary that people changed. What's his, I forget the guy's name actually, but he's out of Chicago actually.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I just remember it was tagged Fensler film.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's him. But has anyone ever done a live action recreation? So using the original audio of the PSAs, but do it like this, like do live action and see because I imagine they would look so wild. Like two kids hanging out in their bathroom talking about, I'm going to take mom's drugs. And then just Doc shows up at the window, be like, hey kids, don't take your parents' drugs, but use the actual audio from it. Oh, I feel like this should be...
that someone's gonna then do the Fensler film.
Oh yeah,
like redubs.
Yes,
Hey, what are you doing on my land?
I feel like this needs to be Cobra Convergence 2021. I feel like this is something we should all put together. At least do a couple of these.
I'm game.
Because that sounds like
as
it would be
international travel opens up again, Joe.
The concept of that sounds
in costume.
It sounds frightening to me, and I would love to see that happen. And use the show audio too, not just like do a new one, but actually rip the audio from it and match it to your voice, like they do with these live action ones. Because if you guys notice, the live actions for GI Joe Extreme were the voice actors from the show, so that if you're a kid watching it, the characters all sounded like they did on the same episode that you're watching. I think that'd be a great idea, Steve.
I think we better shut the heck up about it, because we're sitting on a gold mine, Joe, my friend.
Steve Jubber, this has been an absolute delight, my friend. It's so good.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
It's good to be back, my man.
It's great to have you back. Great to connect with you. Great to hear that you're healthy, and I'm assuming there's worse places to be than with your lovely wife stuck in Queensland.
Brother, I have no room to complain. Even though the work front has kind of been a non-starter, I've been enjoying essentially lockdown in paradise, man.
I'll bet.
The rest of the world is really in for the fight of their lives. There are no new cases in Queensland.
That's amazing. Well,
for all intents and purposes, it's business as usual, and it's like speech days every day.
And that's from a lot of the hard work that Dr. Kim has been doing. So you send her our best. Send her thank you for being on the front lines of this, man.
Yes.
And say hi to all the guys over at GI Joburg. Send them my love. I appreciate what you guys do. When's the next video? The play motion video coming out?
Play motion videos. Well, things have become very difficult on that front personally, because I'm stuck in Oz with a very modest collection of toys.
Right, all yours, yeah.
So all my plans for 2020, as with everyone's plans for 2020, have kind of been dashed. I wanted to send the Defiant into space because, as you know, we sent the flag onto the ocean.
Yeah, that was great.
So the next step was, of course, launching a mission into the upper atmosphere with the Defiant launch complex. But That ain't gonna happen while my Defiant is 9 time zones away from me. So fans of our PlayMotion stuff will have to be a little bit patient. We're undergoing some technical difficulties, but very exciting. Our work has kind of inspired other people to make their own, which we are then more than happy to host on our channel.
Great.
So while GI Joburg has kind of paused production, other people have taken on the reins, and Troy Smith, alumnus of Joe and Joe Pod, has answered the call and given us amazing fan contributions and even featured your voice, may I add.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
pleasure to do it.
It's wonderful to know that, like, even if the wheels of production have stopped turning for us, this kind of content is happening and happening with increasing regularity.
I love it.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Maybe
It's
this is the highest goal to begin with. It's like, yeah, let's do something that showcases how we play with GI Joe and maybe inspire others to show us how they played with GI Joe.
That's so great.
We've just got this great playlist of like play motion.
That's so great. And as a member, and unrelated, as a member of the GI Joburg team on the GI Joe mobile game, I urge all of you guys, if you guys are on the mobile game, go to the GI Joburg squad and join up.
Well, yes, we do have some turnover of members. I think we're at capacity now, but people come and go all the time. I am terrible at that game, Joe. I'm really bad. I've only just figured out some of the functions. Like, I just could not win any battles. I was I don't know how this works. It doesn't come with any kind of instructions, and if you're not familiar with PvP mobile games,
the instructions are lacking. There's a lot of the finer details of the things that they do not do a good job of explaining. They say like
so embarrassingly, GI Joburg, the player, is probably on the bottom ranking of the GI Joburg group. So I'm kind of dragging everyone else's sort of average scores down, perhaps.
That's all right.
But it's just nice to be on there anyways and see
yeah.
digital toys.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and so I'm happy to be a part of that. And I'm happy.
How do I get the Skyhawk? I want the Skyhawk.
I don't have the Skyhawk either. I finally unlocked Cobra Commander this week. I finally unlocked Cobra Commander. And I don't really understand what he does. He doesn't seem to do anything good on the battlefield.
He just dies.
Yeah,
he dies
right.
hard.
He does. And I'm like, what? Like, I finally unlocked him, and he didn't do anything good. So I don't, I'm going to go back to my Destros and my Scarlets. I like to take over things and blow them up from a distance. Well, either way, Steve, this has been a delight. Thank you so much for joining us for G.I. Joe Extreme Season 1 finale.
Yo, Joe, baby.
Yo, Joe, baby. And now you, Joe. And Joeing is half the battle. Extreme!